My daughter was smiling and waving at me as the train pulled away. It had been about 2 months since she last saw her dad, so she was excited to visit him. After she boarded the train, I sent a message to my husband to let him know she was on her way. About 4 hours after I got home, Sarah called me. I had told her to call when she arrived, so I assumed it was just a quick update. "Hi, Sarah, did you make it to San Francisco and meet your dad?" But instead of her usual cheerful tone, she sounded upset. "Mom, can you come pick me up?" What's wrong?" I asked, alarmed. "I didn't get to see Dad," she said. "What do you mean?" "I don't know, I haven't heard from him. When I went to his house, some strange woman answered and wouldn't let me in." "What?" "My name is Liddy, I'm 32, and I live with my husband, Robert, and our 11-year-old daughter, Sarah. I got pregnant with Sarah when I was still in college. It wasn't planned, but with support from my parents, I managed to finish school. After that, I became a full-time housewife. Robert always said he wanted to marry me, so we got married shortly after finding out about the baby. At first, things were a bit chaotic, and not everyone around us was supportive, but once Robert got a good job at a reputable company, things settled down. We were able to live in company housing, and financially, we were doing fine. We didn't really have a typical honeymoon phase, but we didn't care. Sarah was adorable, and Robert doted on her. On weekends, he would take care of her so I could relax and spend time with my friends. I didn't have to give up on my hobbies or dressing up, and life felt comfortable. The years flew by, and before I knew it, Sarah was in elementary school. Around that time, Robert got promoted, which meant longer hours at work. Even so, we made the most of our weekends, going on family trips and making memories. Life felt stable and happy. But then, everything changed. One day, Robert was told he had to transfer to another city for work. At first, he always turned down transfers because Sarah was too young, and we didn't want to uproot her life, but now she was 11, and that excuse wasn't enough anymore. This time, the job seemed critical to Robert's career. He told me it could determine his future at the company, and he couldn't refuse. We had to think about Sarah's future too: junior high, high school, college, and all the costs that would come with it. I realized we couldn't hold him back, so we agreed to the transfer, hoping it would lead to something better for all of us. I was told that my husband's assignment would last about 6 months. Well, 6 months isn't so bad, I thought. Still, my daughter really loved her dad and was worried about being away from him. Robert promised her he would call every day and try not to make her feel lonely. He said she could visit him on weekends too. I could see he cared about our family. Even though he was moving away, he was still going to make time for us. Sarah said, "I'll miss seeing Daddy, but I'll manage." We saw him off with smiles on our faces. After about 3 days, Robert called on video to talk to Sarah. It was nice to see them chatting. It made me laugh, because it seemed like he was the one acting like a child. It was heartwarming to see them so close. I could tell they had a strong bond. The first weekend, he couldn't visit because he was too busy, but the next week he made time and came home on Friday. I was so grateful that, despite his busy schedule, he still made time for us. Sarah was so happy to have dinner with her dad again after a long time. But about 2 months into his new life, things started to change. He used to call every 3 days for a video chat, but over time, those calls became less and less. Eventually, he stopped calling altogether. I understood. He was busy with work, living alone, and doing all the house chores. I thought once he got settled, he might start going out with his colleagues more, and things would get easier for him. I didn't want to pressure him, so I didn't insist on him keeping in touch more often. Still, he didn't contact me much, and when he did, it was brief. Eventually, he came home less and less. I told Sarah that her dad was just really busy with work, but I could see that she was sad, even though she didn't say anything about it. It wasn't a good situation, and even though I knew he was busy, I felt like something was wrong. I asked my husband to call Sarah, even if it was just for 5 minutes. She seemed so lonely at home. He apologized and said, "I'm sorry," but he still didn't call her. Sarah's birthday was coming up, and I hoped he'd come home to surprise her. She even said, "Maybe Daddy will come home." But on her birthday, he didn't come home, and he didn't even call to wish her a happy birthday. Sarah was really disappointed. I was so mad that I called him several times and left messages. Lately, When I called, he wouldn't pick up or return my calls, so this time, I called him again and again. Finally, on the fifth call, he picked up the phone. "What's wrong? You've been calling me a lot, haven't you?" he asked. I was angry. "What are you doing?" I said. "What?" he replied. "It's Sarah's birthday today, it's Saturday, and you didn't come home. You didn't even call to wish her a happy birthday," I snapped. "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry about that," he said. "Sarah hasn't seen her dad in so long. She was really hoping you'd come home for her birthday. Tell her I'm really sorry and wish her a happy birthday," he said. No matter what I said, all he did was apologize. I was fed up and hung up the phone. As I hung up, my anger flared up again. I thought, please think about your daughter and treat her better. You're busy, but this is too much. I sent him a message telling him just that. He replied with, "I understand, I'm sorry." But nothing changed. Another month went by, and Sarah started her summer vacation. She kept telling me that if her dad couldn't come to her, she'd go to him. She said this every day since summer vacation started. I decided to let her visit him on her own. She was excited about the idea and wanted to try something new. We live in Los Angeles, and Robert lives in San Francisco now. She could take a train there, so I drove her to the station. I called Robert to let him know that Sarah would be arriving in San Francisco. He agreed to pick her up. Finally, Sarah would get to see her dad again after a long time. On Saturday, I saw her off and headed home. As the train pulled away, she waved at me with a big smile. It had been 2 months since she last saw Robert, so I knew she was really looking forward to it. I sent a message to Robert right after Sarah got on the train. About 4 hours later, I got a call from Sarah. It was around noon, and since she had left early that morning, I assumed she had already met up with Robert and maybe even had lunch before calling me. I had told Sarah to call me when she arrived, so when the phone rang, I thought she was calling to update me. "Hello, Sarah, did you make it to San Francisco and meet your dad?" I asked. But her voice was upset. "Mom, come pick me up right now, please." What's wrong?" "I didn't see Dad." "What do you mean?" "I don't know, I haven't heard from him. When I went to his house, some strange woman turned me away." "What?" I was shocked. I needed to pick her up right away. "Where are you?" I asked. "I'm back at the San Francisco station. I'm just sitting in a fast food restaurant, trying to pass the time." I immediately got in the car and drove to the station. Once I arrived, I bought a ticket and caught the next train to San Francisco. When I finally got there, Sarah was waiting for me, her eyes full of tears. We went to a nearby cafe, and I ordered some pancakes that were famous in the area. As soon as they came, Sarah's face brightened a little, and she seemed to calm down. I asked her what had happened. She explained that when she got to San Francisco station, she couldn't get in touch with Robert. She waited for about 30 minutes, but he never showed up, so she decided to go to his house by herself. I had given her his address, just in case something went wrong. Since she's good with smartphones, she quickly found her way there using a map. She took the train to Robert's place, and when she rang the doorbell, a woman's voice answered. "Who are you?" the woman asked. Sarah was surprised but said, "I'm here to see my dad." The woman told Sarah to go home because she was in the way and wouldn't let her see Robert. Then the woman hung up without opening the door. So, Sarah went back to the station. I was so angry that I couldn't hold it in anymore. "If she told you not to see your dad, then let's not see him," I said to Sarah. I took my daughter home and started preparing to leave. When I told my parents what happened, they were furious and said they'd help however they could. For now, my parents let us stay with them until I could find a job. Eventually, my husband called. "I didn't see Sarah at the station. Did something happen?" he asked. I figured his mistress didn't tell him she had turned Sarah away. I also doubted he even went to the station, since there had been no word from him when I picked up Sarah. I was stunned but decided to keep calm for now. Sarah got sick on the way there and had to turn around. I lied. "We just finished at the hospital. Sorry I couldn't call earlier." "Oh, I see, I understand," he replied. I ended the call and was seething with anger. It was so obvious he didn't really care. Well, let him dig his own grave. I'm done, I thought. After that, I started taking action. First, I packed up his things and sent them to his address. Then, I got the results of the investigation I had ordered from a private detective. I sent the proof of his affair, along with a certified letter, to his work. A few days later, my husband called, sounding furious. "What the hell are you doing?" he yelled. "Huh? What do you mean?" I said. "I just thought I'd let everyone know what you've been up to." "You've got to be kidding me, we're in the middle of a huge problem here," he snapped. "Of course, we are. That's what I was trying to fix," I said smugly. "By the way, I sent your stuff back because I don't need it, and I'm not paying rent on that apartment anymore." "What?" he asked, shocked. "Sarah and I moved out of that apartment," I said. "You left the apartment? When?" "About a month ago." "What? No one's lived there for a month, and we still had to pay rent?" "Well, yeah, but it's in your name, so that's your problem." "No," he shouted, "you're 2 months behind on rent now. I've been getting calls from an unknown number, I bet that's why. We'll be evicted." "Not my problem," I said coldly. "But we'll be in trouble if I lose the apartment. Why didn't you just stay there? And you sent a certified letter to my company. Do you know what you've done? They found out about my affair. They're replacing me and moving me back to Los Angeles. And now, because you sent my stuff back, I don't even have a place to live there." I almost laughed, because everything had worked out better than I expected, but I kept calm and said, "You've hurt Sarah and me so much. Now, you're going to pay the price. And this isn't over." "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice shaking. "I'm filing for divorce, and I'll be demanding alimony and child support." "Oh, no. Let's just let the lawyers handle it and get this over with," I said, and then I hung up. I hired a lawyer, and everything went as planned. The divorce was finalized without any issues. I filed for alimony from my ex-husband and his mistress, as well as child support. My ex-husband became the center of a huge scandal after his affair was exposed, leading to his transfer back. He was made a joke at his company, female employees looked down on him, and his chances for promotion were gone. But he couldn't quit his job because he had alimony and child support to pay. He must have felt embarrassed every day. My daughter, disappointed in him, refused to see him even when he apologized and tried to meet with her. He deserved it. As for me, I found a job, and my daughter and I now live happily in a cozy apartment. I'm working hard to support her and excited to see her grow up.